Hey guys, it's D Soul coming at you from the Bay Area. We are going to be doing an interview with Playboy Stix from Playboy's crew, representing out of San Jose and the South Bay. So we're gonna catch up with Bryce and see what he's up to these days, seeing where this dance is taking him, where his curiosity has driven him to, and to me, he is of the younger generation, but to me, he is one of the poppin' historians, and he's contributing so much to the discussion about the roots and history of where this street dance came from, where popping came from, where boogaloo came from. And, I want to say that this podcast is not to choose sides or bash anybody's story. This is a very difficult topic, highly debated, and at the end of the day, everybody has a story to tell, and I just want to start to engage in that and give people a voice to tell their experience. Everybody has a right to tell their point of view and their experience, and yeah, that's what this is gonna be, and Playboy Stix has got a lot going on, and yeah, let's check him out. It's the Grassfed Robot with Playboy Stix. Tell us a little bit about this past year. You had like transitions and some big kind of life choices, and yeah, outside of dance or in combination with dance.
Yeah, I mean, even still going through that, but like, yeah, the last year, almost a year ago now, I quit my job, which I had been for 9 years, basically right out of college. So, I definitely needed a break just from working in general, and I was also looking for a change, to switch it up.
Yeah, and what were you doing? What were you doing exactly?
Mechanical engineering.
Yeah,
so for Lockheed Martin, an aerospace company.
Oh, okay.
And so I would do like 3D design, some parts, and try to figure out, basically making like computer parts for satellites and missiles and stuff. Usually like government contracts or like some NASA stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is South Bay, considered South Bay.
Right. Yeah, that was
Mountain View, was it?
My company was located in Sunnyvale, which is really close to Mountain View, and then I was living in Santa Clara, which is right next to San Jose. So.
And did you feel like you, I mean, you say you needed a break. I mean, was that, I mean, as far as, did your values in life change, or did it just did you see an opportunity where you were like, okay, right now, my priorities are different, and I want to pursue another path? I mean, it's hard to leave a steady paycheck.
Yeah, yeah, for
Not
sure.
many people ever turn back.
Yeah.
So how'd that come about?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons I was there for so long too is it was very comfortable. I was very had that stability, and it was kind of, and I wasn't working all crazy hours, so I did get to do dance stuff and travel.
Yeah.
But I wasn't, passionate about it so much. I liked what I did. I liked the people I worked with, but I didn't really love it. I was thinking there's other things.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, in a lot of ways, I've written about it in my blog, and it's I say to some people, I haven't even made the choice for myself yet, but what is the best path? And there may not be a best path, but for example, supporting your art with an income,
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing. I mean, you became a great dancer while you were working this 9-to-5 job, and you got to travel and all that sort of stuff. So in a sense, you had a lot of freedom, right?
Yeah.
So what was the transition like after that? When you left the job and you had all this free time.
Well, yeah, it was pretty easy. I think I had mentally checked out before, so it was pretty easy for me to just fully accept it, and as far as just not working anymore, and then starting to I'd saved up a lot of money too, so I was fortunate to be able to not work, you know.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, what for a while, for a long time actually, I was, trying to work on some side stuff with like some documenting some dance just by like interviews and whatnot, like I normally do. But I was also just like, having some fun traveling, just like learning stuff just by like, watching YouTube videos, like just little interests I had. I just thought, okay, I'll look into these more,
Yeah.
And, but the difficult part began where I was like, okay, well, what's next for me?
Yeah.
Because I didn't really know. I just knew I needed to like stop. I needed to like cut off my work. Like I needed to give myself some time to figure out that stuff.
Yeah, because you felt some sort of void, or did you just feel like you were, I don't know, you came to a point where it was like, is this the way my life is going to be forever? And you just felt like there was more out there for you? Is that kind of the feeling?
Kind of, and it also was the fact that I was like, I felt really stressed to be trying to like figure out my next steps and explore all these other interests I had while I was still working. Because even though I didn't like work crazy hours, I still did the 40-hour work week, which is kind of a lot of time. Like, it's most of your day, and then like you get home and like, most of the time, especially if it's like busy day or you're thinking a lot and you're putting a lot of energy, you just want to like chill.
Yeah, so like, so like walk us through like a day, like when you
work.
When you were like in your working schedule, like you had your weekends off, right?
Yeah.
Typical. And then like, so Monday you wake up, like what time did you start work?
Probably like somewhere between 8 and 9 usually.
Okay, and you would just like eat something or
what was I think is a typical type of I guess work thing where you get up and I drove into work every day, but it's like it was kind of crazy. I would wake up, especially towards the end, like thinking like, damn, I've been waking up every weekday for like 9 years, like getting up at this time. It's so crazy to think that like
that long amount of time.
Yeah, that you're on this like schedule that's not yours.
Yeah.
And I get why it is that, but like it just kind of, I don't know, it just tripped me out. It's just that whole work life, career life.
Yeah. That I'm asking you these questions because personally I've never experienced that. I've always lived a kind of like a hustler life where you're just like kind of getting by on random jobs here and there, pickups. I've never been on like a steady paycheck. So like to think 9 years you had like, it was an annual salary, right? So you clock in, clock out, but like were they sending you home with mad work? Like, so you get a lunch, you go through work again, and then so like for example, I'm saying go to work again, but that entailed a lot. Like was it any creative processes that you were using being a mechanical engineer, or
a little bit, and some projects were more than others, but like I think my company, that was kind of one thing that I didn't like, is like there were certain divisions or like groups, I guess, departments that would be more on the research end, so they're a little bit more what I would say like creative or like researching new technology and all this stuff. But for most of my work, it was like using a lot of old stuff.
Yeah.
And so like being an artist and like having to go to work and not really be that creative was kind of a hard thing. Like there was like some, like I said, but it wasn't a lot of creativity.
It's interesting because I've talked to other people about their jobs and things like that, and people that are creative types, that do graphic design for their 9 to 5 or longer, and they get off work and they're like creatively tapped. Where their job is all creative work, and then when they get back and they like can't dance, like they got nothing left.
I see what you're saying.
But in your sense, you still felt a struggle, in that it wasn't exercising enough creativity, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like there's got to be some middle ground in there where a job.
For sure.
Yeah. So you would go to work, and was the majority of the work on a computer or like through certain programming and?
Yeah, basically like a lot of 3D modeling and like 2D drawings of parts and things was like, I guess, the biggest part. So like, yeah, I would be on the computer. Like that's what sucked too. Is I would sit there. I was thinking that to myself too. Like I've been doing 9 years. I've been sitting at this freaking computer like for most of the day. And I tried to get up as much as I could. Of course, when like stuff's getting built, you go down into the manufacturing and check it out. But like majority of your time, you're in your computer chair. It's so bad. Like, you know, it's crazy. Like how the computers help us, but like, fuck, dude, you can't just sit there all day at a computer. It's so bad for your body.
Yeah.
It's just.
And I mean, the majority of society is that right now too. You know, I kind of see a shift happening, but you know, like with technology, things are happening easier and like. But these jobs, people are even creating standing desks, and they're changing the work environment. And it's not like just a blank white cubicle anymore. They got plants and stuff. They realize there's a certain environmental aspect that increases productivity and things like that. So then you would get off work at like 5 or something, right?
Yeah, just a little later, but.
Yeah, 5 or 6, and then you would you practice like every day, or would you have certain sessions you go to, or?
Yeah, there would be time. You know, over the years, there were times where I was practicing more.
Yeah.
Whether it's just like sessioning with people on my own, or like actually practicing for something like putting together a routine. Because you know we try to do routines here and there as a crew, and like sometimes that could be really difficult. That could take a lot of time, and it takes like scheduling, and especially for certain events that we did. Like it's like, okay, this is our due date. Let's put something together. Oh, we want to make a big one, 5 people.
Yeah.
Damn. Okay, that's gonna take a lot of time to put that together. You know.
Yeah.
So like that also would get to me. I think in the beginning it was a lot easier for me to just like be like, yeah, I'm down to work on a routine and like practice, and like I was doing that a lot. But then over the years I got more like I got interested in other things in life, and I was just like, I just don't have the motivation to practice so much right now. You know? I'm still kind of like that. Like,
And that's interesting too. I mean, you're talking about the South Bay area. You're part of Playboys Inc., and that's this crew that, you know, is based out of San Jose with Money B. And like this is like when I hear a popper say, "Oh, like hype to make routines," it's kind of an interesting thing for me, because coming out of LA is kind of like the home of all ego, like where it's like soloist to the max. You know, we never talk about making routines. I don't want to say never, but there's a few people that would do routines, but it wasn't the major focus. What was it about? Like, was it about the South Bay or the Playboys or the Bay Area? Like, what made you gravitate towards routines? Like,
oh well, I guess on a personal level, like I always really appreciated the routines I would see, and of course, like the Bay Area guys, you know, like probably one of the first videos is that like Media Circus at B-Boy Summit. They're all in those bunny suits or whatever, like the moon suits or whatever you want to call them. So like, you know, seeing that, especially those guys being like masters of routines, like I was like, dang, you know, that would be sick, you know. And I always thought it would be cool to maybe do something like that. So that was kind of the initial spark. But then just being in the Bay Area, you're going to be exposed to that a little. But the big thing that really just got me into it, of course, was Playboys. Because, like, once I was in there with Money B, like, or even Dizzy, actually Dizzy would be the first one that I started practicing with from Playboys. Even he was like, would show me a few little ideas. It was just always in the crew to like, routines is just part of what you do too.
It was big part of the culture up here. And a big part of just what you conceptualized as popping, or this style of dance.
It's like, I think of it too, like it's another thing to be creative with. Like, as a crew in general, we're always creating things. That's one thing I really love about this crew, is that they love like preserving movement, right, in the old school style, but always like, check out this new tut, like, oh, what's this? Check out this concept, right?
Yeah.
So like, and I'm like that myself. So not only can you do that like soloists, you're like, oh, look, yo, what if we did a routine where this guy came out and like thread through, and like that'd be dope, you know, like we're being creative and like getting amped on like on that kind of
doing
ideas.
it together, and sharing ideas, right? Like you have to share that concept with the person next to you in order for it to look right. You have to even share your conceptualization of like how you thought about it or how you execute it. So yeah, I can totally see that being like a, you know, a community aspect, you know, where you're almost creating a brotherhood, you know.
For sure.
Yeah, it creates this big bonding experience that you're sharing moves with each other, but it's still creative. It's not like one person's creating all the moves and then everybody else is soldiers, you know.
Yeah, right.
That's what I kind of associate with routine, is like choreography, right?
Right. Yeah.
In which there's one choreographer, and everybody, hey, hit this pose at this time.
Yeah.
That's it. You know, like I ain't asking you to style it up.
Yeah.
I don't want no feedback. You know, it's like just do what I tell you, and not all choreographers are like that. You know, they want to see you add a little something, but that's just kind of like what I grew up around routines. It was always like being in LA. It was always like choreo, street dance. Like there's really no intersecting. It was kind of like the choreo would feed off the street dancing and put it in a sequence, you know. But the originality would spur from the street dance, at least from when I came up. So back to so you would get these routines, and this would be like, so you'd go through sessions throughout the week and things like that. You would have solo practice sometimes as well, right? Were you a big solo practice guy, or was it mainly practicing in groups?
It was. You mean, oh yeah, like on my own at home.
Yeah.
Not big on like not being very disciplined about it, I should say, because like I would do it, but like it would be very random. It would be just because I'm like looking through music.
Yeah.
And then I find songs I like, because I like, if anybody knows me, like I'm always finding new music, so like usually that's what it is, and then I just start getting down, and I might practice some little concepts too while I'm like cooking dinner, or like, you know, you just kind of like robot around the house or whatever, like.
Yeah.
So, but I was never super disciplined about it. Only like here and there where maybe I had a competition coming up. Like, so.
Yeah.
I've never been that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, because for me it was always super solo practice. Like, I mean, like every single day, still to this day, I incorporate solo practice in, you know, and it definitely shapes you as a dancer, and you can kind of tell too. But yeah, there's always a kind of balance too, and everybody's a little different in which environments they thrive in, right? Being a kind of introverted, possibly insecure person, I gravitated toward this solo practice where I could just go into my zone, you know, almost like a meditation or a Tai Chi or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
But then, like, I know tons of dancers, like, you came up in a crew, and I never really had a crew coming up. I had people that I'd be around, but, you were always dancing with people.
Yeah, well, I mean, actually I was, I solo for about the first, like 5, or no, I would say, I would session with people sometimes. But I was kind of on my own when I was through college. Like, that's when I like first started, and then I went to college.
And what year was this?
So I started in 2002.
2002, okay.
And then with Tommy Boy, and then like, studio like every week. But then after that, there was like 4.5 years of kind of like on my own, or a couple guys here and there, but not a ton of like sessioning with people in Arizona because they didn't really have a lot of poppers in Arizona. At that
And
time.
this is when you're in college. So
Yeah.
you're from the Bay Area, but you were going to college at Arizona State University, ASU, and so you would have your you had Tommy Boy influence. You had a few other guys, but then you went to Arizona, and it was kind of like
some videos, but not. YouTube wasn't until like 2005, but it was like some videos you would find online still. I was always internet, find, like, the first MP3s I ever got were through AOL chat rooms.
Oh.
Like, a lot of people don't even know that was a thing.
Yeah.
Like, you actually, you go in a chat room, and there's guys that have, files, and you type in, whatever their username is, and, send list, and then they email you their list of MP3 files.
Oh, wow.
And then you go back into the chat room and you say, send number 25, and it's like a song, And so they email you each song individually, one email per song.
Yeah.
And then you download it. And it took a long time to download too, right?
Yeah,
This is in late 90s, right?
Yeah.
So.
And this was free music. This is pirated music.
Yeah, it's,
Yeah.
It's illegal.
Yeah, for sure. I was just wondering if you paid them or anything. If there's any form. There's no form of payment. There's no PayPal. Well,
for some
maybe
reason,
there was.
People
PayPal,
always wanted to just you always had these people that wanted to give music away for free.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is.
It's an early Napster,
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the earliest form of free music on AOL. Yeah, chat rooms.
Yo, it was I laugh about it nowadays, but dude.
Is there anyone?
But I was always always on the internet, trying to get stuff.
Yeah.
So videos, the same thing. I used every thing that came out, whether it's Napster, LimeWire, some people I don't know if you know any of these things, but Audio Galaxy was a thing, and all these websites, or you go to Still to Ouf was the French.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Website that would post videos, and I would see a lot of videos through there. I saw Salah on there, and I saw
So, and this is the time of Wiggles Forum.
Yes, and I was on there as well, not heavy. But I knew about that. I wasn't big in forums for a long time.
Yeah, but then you Wiggles Forum was early 2000s, I believe, right?
Yeah, it might have even been
late 90s.
Late 90s. I can't remember. There was another one too that I never was on, called bboy.org, and some other ones that I never really.
Yeah, and then there was, this is long before my time, so I get all this history from y'all and older generation, the middle generation, I'd say.
Yeah.
So then these early 2000ers is they heavily influenced the popping scene to come back, and so there's the Wiggles Forum, and then there's the West Coast Popping Forum.
Yeah.
Which I would think more modern day poppers were exposed to that, because that was the time YouTube was coming up too, right?
Yeah.
It was popular, so West Coast Popping was a thing, and then it all drifted to Facebook.
Yep.
So it's an evolution, but you were through all these things you were searching.
Yeah, I would find videos, and I would always have the elements that Tommy gave me, but I did do a lot of EB style, just because I think there's so many people doing it in the videos, and I also like it. I like a lot of elements of the EB style that I was incorporating. I liked Aki a lot. He was a big guy for me.
Yeah, Aki's dope.
Popula, and I just remember a bunch of people. I liked a lot of things. I liked not just that style. I liked dope tutters and dope gliders. Yeah. So I was always trying to do a little bit of everything. But I think my base became more EB, leg rolls type stuff. And then
did you ever wear hush puppies?
Oh yeah.
Oh snap!
Oh
let's go.
let's get into it. I still have believe it or not, I have a box in my room with a bunch of them, and I was thinking about selling them soon, and seeing what kind of crazy Asian popper was gonna buy them or something, you know, like.
Yeah.
Because I got some nice ones too.
You can sell them on Taobao, like the Chinese
Snap.
eBay. Yeah. Nah.
But yeah, dude, I was into that. I was into the loose clothes, like,
Yeah.
you know, all that stuff. You know, of course.
Yeah. I mean, it's always that was before my time too, the whole boogaloo phase, because I actually came up in, I hate to call it a phase, but there was like this craze.
It was a thing, yeah.
It was more of a craze that happened, where it just dominated everything. And this, I started popping in 2009, so I came up in this kind of like time where there was like an uprising against that sort of thing.
Yeah,
so you had this like divide. It was, I came in at this divide, and it was like there was like some, I was unaware of it for a long time, but there was this sort of drama, you know.
Yeah.
But my first teacher was Midnight, so like he was teaching me what you would consider LA styles or things like that, of that nature, which we would categorize like tutting, waving, like the hard hits and the robot. It was a huge aspect of it. And then it's, and then you see, I would come to like Homeland or come to certain places and I'd see people decked out. I'd be like, like, what is this? Like, I've never been exposed to it, you know?
Yeah.
And then I remember like going, and I was trying to learn popping, so I'd look up on YouTube like tutorials, and the first things that come up are like the Popping Pete tutorials, or like some of like Popping J or like K, and like those old school tutorials, and they're all teaching boog, you know. So it was kind of it was definitely a huge factor in the history.
Yeah, and there's a reason, you know, like, and I don't feel like some people, like, I get the whole, nowadays it's way different because we have like this, you know, the internet age. There's so much information, so many people you can meet and see, and like, but like back then you had like this thing, you had, even before that time, right, there's always these fads, and I think that they exist because like, because you only see like certain things, you only have like a certain amount of people maybe teaching or like battling or like, so like these trends are kind of a little bit more limited. There's not like so many things to choose from.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you see someone come out with a dope looking style, a lot of people wanted to kind of like emulate it.
Yeah.
And, you know, not too many people were like trying to look different, like their whole dress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But even nowadays, like,
people emulate people all the time.
You know what I think is like kind of okay, that like at least back then, like, people were trying to look good.
Yeah.
Even though it was like, you know, hush puppies and like and all that stuff. It's like, well, the hush puppies, I mean, they look kind of cool, like, right? There's the two-tone with the suede. I mean, that's pretty fresh, right? And then you come out with the hat and like, I mean, what's wrong with that?
The matching gear,
Right. You know, so it's like, and it kind of makes sense. It was loose. It goes with
the movement.
You know, the shoes are slick. That's what I liked.
The bottoms.
Yeah,
the bottoms.
You know?
That's a huge part of it. I mean, it's almost like a different style from what I understand, is that like when you put on those shoes, you change.
For me, they got too slippery.
Yeah.
They're really damn slippery.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, this is like, I can't do this anymore. It just didn't work for me. Otherwise, I'd probably still wear them.
Yeah.
You know, why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
If you like them, you like them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you kind of graduate to, I mean, your clothes influence your style for sure. Like the way you move, the way your movement is seen, and that sort of stuff, and the shoes you wear. Like, you see the Rod Lavers, right, and all these hip hop dancers wearing them, and that's what you wear now.
Yep.
And they're probably the slipperiest sneaker you can get.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because even like the Air Force Ones, they got grip, but the thing is people go up on their toe, so on the Air Force Ones, so they don't really grip.
Yeah.
You're just spinning.
Yeah.
You're levitating. So.
I'm not good at that. I'm not that good with the glide, so it really helps me when I have more slippery shoes.
Yeah, or baby powder. You know, that like
just slowly
dispenses out your pant leg.
just pops like, out like
what? His footwork is always so smooth. It's like baby bottom smooth. Throw that Johnson coming out, baby, and Johnson and Johnson coming out his pant leg.
Oh man, dude.
I'm gonna invent that, like a slow
Like
dispenser.
a little, yeah, or it's like built in the shoe.
Yeah, or a little button you just like press in your pocket. It's like, psh.
Just yeah.
Why is there always like white dust on the bottom of his shoes?
That's the Bay Area house dancers. Every time I'm out.
Oh yeah.
Baby powder. All of a sudden they'll just be like, you smell it. You're like, okay.
The houses are here.
Yep.
Yeah, that's tight. There's nothing against some baby powder. It saves your knees for some years.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially at the club where people are spilling drinks.
Oh, the beer, man. Stop spilling your beer, man. Learn from Tabo. My sensei Tabo, man, never spills a beer. Dude dances.
Yes.
Been dancing forever. No, since the early 80s, probably never spilled a beer.
That isolation.
Serious isolation, some fixed point with the beer.
Yep.
Dance around the beer. No.
Yeah, well, my tip for that, too, is if you can get a bottle, get the bottle.
Get the bottle, yeah.
If you're trying to drink and walk around and dance and all that.
Yeah, don't get it on tap.
That glass is going to spill.
Yeah, for sure.
Unless you're really skilled.
Yeah. So, through this journey you've had, I mean, so you graduate college. What year was that? 2007.
The end of the 06.
06.
Yeah. So I came back here beginning of 2007.
And you started working, and then I was wherever I go. People ask me, so like what's happening with the Bay, and I'm like. Yeah, I got a little bit of knowledge, but I'm always like, y'all need to talk to the Bay Area, you need to, and cross reference, of course, like check your references, and all that sort of stuff. But when it comes down to the history, I'm like, okay, you want to kind of avoid the politics, you want to avoid the egos. Where can you go to find a more legitimate source? And I always say, Playboy Stix, you've been fascinated by this culture, fascinated by the history, and there's not many people like you that are actively digging, cross-referencing, documentation, interviewing people, and then you even come out of it to you engage in discussion with opposing views. So in a lot of ways I go, okay, there's only a few popping historians out there, and you're one of them. But from the Bay, I would say, and I'm sure there's other people out there with plenty of knowledge and stuff, but you're probably the one person where I'm like, okay, if I have any questions, I'm going to Bryce first. Yeah, and then if you don't know, you can point me in a direction, Right. So, when did you become fascinated with the history of it all? I mean, you were talking about LimeWire, all this sort of transition of technology. YouTube became a thing. You started digging more. So you were in a hush puppy EB phase, and after that, what happened? What?
So I think for me it was always, even though that was my base, again I loved everything. Yeah. So any good dancer, that even the guys that would I never had this thing where some people were like, oh, if you're roboting, that's not dancing, or that's not pop. If to me it was incorporated, you're dancing to the music, but you're dancing to you were doing elements of a bunch of different things. I loved all that. Yeah. So
same here.
That's what brought me into the dance. I mean, when I saw Tommy do 10 different types of things, I was like, damn, I want to do all that. Yeah. Why limit yourself to
one style?
To one,
Yeah.
So anyways, I was saying that to say that the first time I kind of knew about some bass stuff, but not really. And the first time that I saw something different was Boogaloo Pimp, who I was practicing with, in 07. He did some Fillmore step.
Boogaloo Pimp from MGF. Right?
Yeah. Oh. And I kind of was like, oh, that's fresh. I like that feeling he's doing. And then so that was my first thing. Okay, there's something else going on here. There's another. and he said it was, like a San Francisco thing. I was like, oh, okay, interesting. Like the Bay, like what's up with the Bay? I didn't know the Bay's history until around this time, like 07, 08, I started.
What was your perspective on the history at that point? I mean,
same as everybody else for the most part. EB's created everything, and I mean, not everything, I would say, but
yeah, what was
most
the talk
stuff,
like?
right?
Yeah,
And the dance in general, they were like
they were
the creators. Yeah,
yeah. There was no other people, kind of stating a different story.
No. Not that I saw, because
yeah, you were still fairly new.
Yeah, and I wasn't I wasn't in LA where I would see a lot of dancers.
Yeah.
And then the Bay Area guys, the OGs weren't around really.
Yeah.
Here, Media Circus and Pop Tart and Ralph Plick Plock and them, like, they were doing stuff still, but I didn't see them. I didn't see all that at that time.
Yeah.
Because also when I went to college, I was totally like...
Yeah, you were in another state.
Yeah. So I didn't really realize this stuff. So then, I started kind of and then I met, Pop Tart and, Harry Berry. And I was like, oh, okay, these are OGs. These are older guys. This is dope. Who are these guys? And, they kind of talked a little bit about San Francisco, but wasn't a lot. And then Dizzy, I started practicing with him. And he learned from Harry, and, so he was doing, all this different stuff. And some of it I already knew, but I hadn't practiced. But then he's like, oh, that's kind of what Tommy used to do. I want to get back more into that.
Yeah.
So I started, I think with the history thing was, when I started learning that it was, Bay Area stuff.
When was that?
It's hard for me to say. Probably 2000, kind of when I joined Playboys in 2010, around that time.
There was a knowledge that was existing in the Bay Area, but it wasn't public. It was...
Yeah, and I guess there was some debates that already happened on forums, but I wasn't heavy in them like that at that time.
Yeah.
So, I know that they were fighting, people were trying to get the message out there already, but for me, that was my first exposure, was just kind of learning things here and there. And then it made me feel so, I was like, damn, it's a Bay Area, stuff. I want to learn about this. This is my area.
Yeah.
I didn't know, some things came from here.
Yeah.
Or that they even had a unique style at that,
Yeah.
And so, it slowly built up over the years. And, really, I didn't get heavy into it, until, 2012 or 13 or something. It was when this Facebook forum stuff was
What with what's poppin'?
With what's poppin'. Was a big...
What kind of sparked it?
Well, I think it was before I joined that group, but
Was it way
there was
Wavos?
some kind of debates were happening on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, Wavo was actually a very big spokesperson for sure.
Yeah.
He's being a voice for other styles, Rest in peace, but he was a huge person, and it wasn't it came off. There was a lot of heated debates, but it came off anti-EB, Electric Boogaloo, but it was if you knew Wavo, it wasn't about being anti-anything. He wanted to open up the playing field. He wanted it to be an art form with freedom to express or explore ideas. And I think that's what a lot of people wanted. But there was this sense of authority that was reigning over everything, in which competitions were judged by the same people, and this sort of stuff. You had to do a certain thing to get any recognition.
That was very real.
Yeah. Very real. So that was that's where the heat starts to come, is that this business was dominated monopolized by a certain group, in which the big arguments come from, everybody wants to be accepted and everybody wants to be recognized, but there's people putting in mad work that weren't getting any play in the game. And so Wavo, I specifically, when I was coming up, Wavo was at the forefront of that.
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh, Wavo, come on, man. Like, don't get involved, man. We can still do this thing off to the side.
Yeah,
like,
right.
let him have it. Let him have
want
it.
to stay away from drama.
But
yeah.
I that's just me. I just I respect it. I respect it all. And but I do understand why things are heated. I understand the fight for it. And I do believe that everybody has a right to tell their story.
Yeah.
And everybody has the right to express their movement, like to be different.
Right.
Yeah, and I wish there was more of a platform for competitions to accept, more styles and things like that, and not be so caught up in the definition of what is what and what is what.
Yeah.
Which, a lot of the fights are about is the defining of things and where they started.
Yep.
And so that's like where you're at. It's like you're in this stuff and you're tracing it back to the very roots of it all, you know? So you're in 2012, 2013, and you got, you got these discussions happening on Facebook. And so you felt inclined to participate or...
Yeah, because I would see what happened too is I was seeing these OGs coming out from the Bay.
Yeah.
And to me, it was all, they weren't doing something completely like, they were doing stuff I hadn't seen before, but it wasn't a completely different dance to me.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this is it. This is popping basically, Oh, they're calling it strutting. Oh, they're calling it, boogaloo. Well, okay, we say boogaloo too.
Yeah.
So yeah, okay. It wasn't that crazy. Like, it's like...
Yeah.
It's like, oh, they call their stuff boogaloo. Well, yeah, so does everybody else, right? It's popping and boogaloo.
Yeah.
But they're doing but they're hitting, they're doing, it's all... So I was like, oh, what's their history? I started learning, and then I was like, and then it just... Like everybody else, when you, trust me, when you talk to these guys, and you meet these guys, you see them dance, and you hear what they have to say, they were so real to me.
Yeah.
They didn't know anything. Some of them now are involved on Facebook, and kind of know the EB story and all these things, but a lot of them were just they either didn't know the EBs, they didn't know controversy, they didn't even, some of them didn't even see him on Soul Train.
Yeah, they weren't a part of the scene. They'd been gone for how long?
Dude, 30 plus years.
Yeah, 30, 25 years.
Whatever it was, yeah. And it's and they would say things, and I'm like, this guy's just telling us the truth here. This guy's not lying about anything.
Yeah.
Because he's not saying, oh,
he's got no...
This person they didn't make it up. No, he was like, oh no, this is what I was doing. And
they got no invested interest necessarily, right?
Yeah, and they weren't trying to make money on nothing. They weren't even trying to dance, really.
Yeah. They were just like, this is what we did back in the day, and they're like, wait, what? There's all this stuff happening? Oh. Yeah. And then stuff starts to get a little heated, maybe.
Yeah. And let me say this. Like a lot of other people, I was already confused about a lot of things because of what the stories that were out there and the rules and kind of what was supposed to be what this dance is and how it was created and everything. There was a lot of I want to say confusion on my part. No, you're kind of contradicting with this statement and this statement, because I grew up around that too, all those things that when you take a class or when you watch a video and they say this is what this is and this is created by this person, and this is on the EB's webpage, and other people will tell you too, it's this is the story that was painted, but there were holes, and there was like I said, confusion. So that mixed with what I was now learning about these guys,
the
was
Oakland,
something's here,
San Francisco, these guys, it's the Bay Area OGs, right?
And put those things together, and I was like, man, I'm really curious about this now, because it was also giving me a lot more clarity on the dance. So for me, it wasn't actually causing more confusion. It was actually clearing things up.
So would you say that it was? Did you start to enjoy the dance more? Personally, was it clarifying how you'd conceptualize the movement? Did it start to clarify things in your head as far as when you were doing something? Was that part of the motive, or was it
Yeah, like
just learning dance? You know.
it gives you. They were expressing their culture to me. They were sharing their culture, and that's something that even though the dance like at that point had a culture, it wasn't deep like the Bay Area.
Yeah.
It just what like things these guys were saying, and how much they saw it, and how many people were doing it around them, and I was just like, yo, this is like.
And they were quoting years too,
Yeah,
right?
and again, like L.A., I know has this too, but I didn't talk to those guys about their history.
Yeah.
So like, I'm sure a lot of people in L.A. were probably even before me, like thinking about this stuff too.
Yeah.
But these guys, I was like, man, and then their years, and I was like, whoa, what kind of, what? That's way early. That's like.
Yeah.
Like 10 years earlier than
what's being said, yeah.
And so all that stuff. I'm losing my train of thought now.
Yeah. But I mean, like, so you were telling this, or you were finding out all this information, and they were quoting years that were long before the said story of the creation of popping. So you were seeing these kind of holes. Or kind of like misinformation, right?
Yeah, and what I was trying to get back to earlier about what it was doing for me. So like, it was clarifying some things. They were telling stories that kind of made sense. Like, oh, that's why they did that movement. Also, they were doing things like, oh yeah, well, we would animate, right? And I'm like, oh, so as Boogaloo, you would hit, you would animate, and you would like roll your body too. And I was like. So everything was together.
Yeah.
Because, this was at a time where they're like, animation's not popping.
Oh.
Right? It's not like, and of course it's its own sub thing even in Boogaloo, Oakland Boogaloo. Yeah. But it was always part of the dance. Like.
Popping is this umbrella term, and animation is under that.
Right.
Yeah.
Or Boogaloo was the thing for them, right? The umbrella. And like animation was under that. And I was like, yo, I like that because. Why the hell are all these poppers animating?
Yeah. So
why the hell is like if you're telling me that this ain't part of the dance, why is every time I see this damn dance?
Yeah.
There's like animation and like waving and like gliding like
in the Bay Area, right?
In a lot of videos and it was always like part of the dance. And then when you talk to the Bay Area guys, from the beginning it was always part of their dance as well.
Yeah. So let me clarify something that I just said that the umbrella of popping included animation in it, right? But then you said, to them it was Boogaloo.
Right.
The umbrella was Boogaloo, and they were calling it.
And this is Oakland.
Yeah.
To be specific.
Yeah, they were calling it the Boogaloo.
Right.
Right. So, they wouldn't say you were popping. They were saying you were Boogalooing.
Yeah, and then the Frisco guys, you're strutting.
You're strutting.
And then San Jose popping or strutting because they're.
So where did the term poppin' come from? That was more of a...
In the Bay?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of... That's still a mystery.
Still a mystery.
I'll say.
Yeah.
But I do know that it was... There's been multiple people that said that they heard it in 78 for sure, possibly late 77. So, like, that was around the time when the term, like became popular. And that matches, like, EB's timeline as well. Well... Not necessarily. I guess they said they were using it earlier, but it matches when they at least became popular.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Soul Train.
Yeah. So that's when the word like started kind of like becoming really big, right? So it's like, but no, this is before Soul Train. Sorry.
Oh, before.
I'm not trying to say that because they were on Soul Train that then the Bay Area was like, oh, now we're gonna say popping. Like, no.
No.
The Bay Area, something else happened here. Where they started using that word. Because it was before Soul Train.
Yeah. And so, there's all this stuff happening, like, but from the earliest that you've dug, I mean, what's the earliest years that you've heard thrown out? I mean,
so there was a big dance craze across the nation of Boogaloo in like 65.
And that's not what we know now. This isn't Oakland Boogaloo. This isn't
No, no, no,
EB.
no. This was the Boogaloo. What the research we've done, it's actually existed before, but it's hard to say like in what way before 65. In 65, it was a lot easier to define what was going on. There was a song that came out that was like by Tom and Jerry O, and it was like pretty popular for like popular enough that like most of the black communities around the nation got wind of it and were like, oh, this is like a new dance or like a new thing, because they would make songs for dances just like they do today, like do the Dougie, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it'd be like do the Boogaloo, do the Shingling, do the thing, whatever. And so this was one of those songs. But we've done research where it's like that word had already existed and like with some kind of dancing or music before that.
Yeah.
But this was like the thing that blew up. Latin Boogaloo spawned from that. So all these actually Boogaloos kind of spawned from that. There was this like explosion because then James Brown did his version and he did like a specific dance that he called the Boogaloo. And people remember that too. Like it was like, okay, this is little thing with his arms and his head. That's Boogaloo. So what happened in Oakland was around that same time, the same thing happened here, where 65, 66, these guys were like adopting the word to mean kind of like getting down, maybe a specific dance a little bit, but also just kind of like getting down. You're just Boogaloo, you're doing the Boogaloo.
Yeah.
And so the earliest guys, I think in 66, like Pirate and the Easy Walkers, were doing like not too much. They did a couple steps that were like unique to Oakland, the Ditalian, and I forget. I'm gonna forget that other thing. That was kind of unique. Maybe it was just maybe the Ditalian was the big one, which is something a lot of the older guys know, right? But then what happened right after that is Boogaloo started taking a big like shift to something unique in a solo form. And there's a guy named Donald Matthews, and he was like one of the first people to really like add in a bunch of things and to like because he became a mascot for school for Fremont High School, the Tigers, and he would like do like waist movements, like waist rolls, even the chest with his arms coming out. He would be like animating, but not like claymation, but he would be like characters and posing, animals and like posing. So he was one of the big people that kind of brought a lot of that new stuff in. And then Jerry Renty is like right behind him to do a lot of things too.
Yeah.
And then there were other people as well. So, but I think Donna Matthews was like kind of one of the big people that really did a lot. But from there, it started like developing into its own like not only dance style but also a culture.
So what year is this Donald Matthews? Like what? So Fremont High School. Yeah,
I think he probably started like trying to do Boogaloo stuff in like 66. They were heavily influenced by James Brown, so most of those early guys were doing James Brown moves, but then adding these new things.
And where are these new things from?
Some of them, like I think some of the we think some of the waist movement stuff and the rolling of the chest and things was African dance.
Yeah.
Congolese dance, for example, is very a lot of rolling. They even have a word called roll for that movement of their chest and their hips.
Yeah.
So, and there was a lot of it's all African American community here, right?
Yeah.
So like, and even Donald Matthews would say like that the Africans had an influence on African dance. Getting kind of wild, he would say like, that free spirited dance, like getting down. He said like maybe some of the arm stuff was like Polynesian, like the hula dancer with their arm waves.
Yeah.
A little bit of that. And then who knows, like probably other dances, other...
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of dance that was coming out of, the tap eras and like, all those
they took a lot of dances and like, but of course made them into something. I think he was one of the people that started making it into something really like different.
Congealing almost like these different elements that he was getting inspired, and people started. It was almost like a style was starting to form.
Yes.
Yeah.
And of course, people will say like, nothing's new under the sun. So
Yeah.
and they'll use that a lot of times to kind of take away from
Creation.
the creation of something.
Yeah.
But for me, I agree with that. But I also think that there are things that make up a dance style, and what it is how like the combination of movements, and also the feeling, like how you do them. So the big thing that needs to be mentioned here in this beginning part is also that funk music was being developed in that year, like 66, 67, through James Brown primarily.
And this is a shift from breaks, like more breaks and to funk.
Right, like soul.
Yeah, soul.
Soul, which had breaks in it and all that. The funk was starting to develop with like Cold Sweat from James Brown was one of the, as far as I looked at now, is one of the premier like signature funk sound kind of songs.
Yeah.
And it had like this jerkiness. It had this like hard element, and this like sporadic, a little more sporadic, and that lends itself perfectly to what this dance then became, right? Like more harder.
Yeah.
More like.
Yeah. Like, people were hitting poses and like that's what makes the most sense to me in some ways. You know, when I think about how did popping start, or how did this like kind of like hitting and that sort of stuff is kind of like, you know, this kind of posing.
Yeah.
And when you pose to a hard beat, it's not like you're gonna like, it's not like a cushy kind of like pillow. It's more like, bam.
Yeah.
Like it makes sense in that sort of way. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna like take a picture. You know, I'm gonna look over here. You know, what's up? And then that's kind of like, that makes the most sense to me as far as how it was created in that popping, hitting, dime stopping, that sort of stuff.
And that is one of the basic elements that made the dance so unique. Was that these guys were not only like pausing, they were doing it so often, and it was like one of the main things you did in this dance.
Yeah.
That's what makes this dance like really unique, is how much you like pause.
Yeah, that pause.
Boom.
Yeah.
Boom. You know, like little snapshots, like you're saying, like boom.
Yeah, it's almost like Vogue, but like in a hard way. It was like Vogue to a hard beat.
Vogue would be like.
But not like it was a completely different essence, of course.
Yes.
But because it was a different culture, different people doing it. So, but yeah, you can see people posing to music all the time, and all different types. Look at locking. Look at So where does locking come into the picture with this sort of stuff too? I mean, you know, you always, like, people will say like, oh, locking came first.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, based on what I was just telling you, like that era of Boogaloo predates locking. So locking was like, was it like late 69, 70? I'm not a locking expert, but I believe it was around that time. And this was 65, 66, 67 for sure, like heavy 67. So like it was like right before locking, and it was totally obviously separate. And then locking didn't really have a big influence on these guys. Like they did lock, they know about the lockers, they would see them on Soul Train.
Yeah.
They would come up here sometimes, I believe, but they never really like were in the community. They never like went into the community much. And like some guys would learn how to lock too, that were Boogaloos, but they always talk about it as being just like that separate thing. They didn't really like incorporate locking stuff so much.
And that's a little different from what I know about LA, you know, because you hear about pop locking,
right.
And in which they were incorporating those two dances together in the same set and things like that, or they would lock in a certain way that was hard, like valley style locking, and like you can see how like poppers would shift into lockers and it would create this unique locking style, you know. So it's so you're saying that they weren't that influenced by these original like kind of Oakland Boogaloo guys. What about Strutters? No, I mean, because with the timing of it all, I mean, it's also in the music, but when I think about like striking and strutting, you know, with the angles, Yeah, it resembles kind of like locking
Yeah,
pointing.
sure. Some of the angles, yeah.
But then again, I talk about like what's kind of like funky is like these angles, right? It's not the symmetry,
Yeah.
you know. So like it kind of makes sense. I don't know. That might just be me, you know, because I grew up with it that way. But something about those angles fits perfectly with the music.
Sure.
So I don't know if it was like, you know, the striking or like, you know, it coexisted or people created it at the same time or whatever.
Yeah, you know, of course. Okay, before I even continue, I want to say I wasn't there. I'm not an expert, right? But like, I have talked to a lot of people.
You are kind of an expert, though.
I'm becoming slowly, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, we don't want to say like, oh, you're the end all be all, and these are pure facts right now.
Yes.
Like they are still being
Yeah.
thought out. Yeah, for sure.
But based on like everybody I talked to and research I've done, like so my theory is that like there may have been some stuff that lockers were incorporated. You know, people from the Bay might have incorporated some locking stuff. Sure, you know, like they incorporated a lot of things from like Soul Train, different dances that were going on, mimes, like I mean all kinds of stuff, right? So I don't doubt they incorporated some things, but if they did, it's probably very little.
Very little.
Because they rarely talk about locking being an influence. Like they always talk about it as this like separate thing that they would do and throw into stuff, the routines usually.
Yeah.
To like change it up because you want to be different, you want to like.
Yeah.
But they never like say like, yeah man, when I saw the locker do that move, then I like it's game over. You know, like they don't say that.
Yeah.
And I don't think my opinion is that I don't think they're doing that to like hide something. They seem just genuinely like they just weren't heavily influenced by locking.
Yeah, and this isn't like, I mean, is this a huge group of people? I mean,
that's expressed that.
Yeah, that's expressed. Oh,
like,
so it's a
I'm
majority.
I don't think I've met one. Well, okay. I should say in the late 70s, like San Jose, for example. They were locking first, and then they started popping.
Yeah, it's interesting. Or like, say, Blue City Strutters.
Right.
Right. Mm-hmm. And they're pretty early on, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're locking and they're popping. Mm-hmm. So it almost seems like that pop locking era was, you know, later on.
Right, where it was more like
influenced, like.
Yeah. So and that's exactly like. If the guys started later, like in the later 70s, usually, they might, it's very possible they learned locking first. But it depends, like, San Jose for sure, not San Francisco, not Oakland, I don't think Richmond either in the early days. So, like, San Jose for sure, though, those guys to say that they were locking first, pretty much all of them, and that they started doing popping. And then it was kind of like, it's kind of hard to get them to separate some of the guys to be like, which one did you start this? And they're like, well, yeah, we're popping, we're locking, all that stuff. Like, like,
all that stuff.
Because for them it was like a lot kind of put together.
And a lot of this stuff, I mean, these guys are young. I mean, like whenever I think about history too, is like, I think about the evolution of this dance, and how we have this competition business model right now. But, like the seriousness of battles, I've listened to a lot of OGs talk about history and that sort of stuff. And then, like, at the poppers picnics and, like, just coming up around the OGs, they're always telling history and stories. And it's dope. It's like, it's like real, like, folk, like it's just like, Native Americans gathering around the campfire.
Right.
It's like old school, passed down through word of mouth. And like, I really respect it. And then, but also I always kind of thought about, like, wow, like, so they have these really intense memories, right, of these stories, They get all hyped up about them, and it's like, it's so intoxicating. But at the same time, like, when they say, like, oh, you gotta battle, like, you gotta hit hard, you gotta, like, we used to battle for jackets and da-da-da, and you rep your crew. And, like, I think about how I was in high school, too, and I think about, like, yeah, like when you battled for reputation, like it mattered in high school.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot, and like being embarrassed or in high school was huge.
Yep.
But now when I think about, like, we still kind of like bring that into the culture, I'm like, I'm 27 years old now. Like, I'm not battling for jackets, and I'm not battling like this is more of an art form to me, and I've chose this kind of like I don't want to say hard path, but like I've chosen this path that's not really accepted by society, and I'm not coming here to like put my ego, like I'm not always entering comps for ego. I'm just kind of like testing myself.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get sucked into that, but it's something that I always, like, when I listen to history, I'm like, I always have that in the back, like, how old were these guys? How old were they at that time,
And that's important for a lot of reasons, like you said, their maturity level, their mentality. And most of these guys were because, and it makes sense, when you have little kids, who's making up the new dances nowadays?
Yeah, kids.
It's kids.
Yeah.
Like young kids, like teenagers or lower, right?
Yeah.
So all these guys started when they were, I've heard, 9 years old up to, most of them started before, like, they were 15, like somewhere between 9 and 15.
Yeah.
It's like, that's young.
And I started dancing when I was 20 years old. Like, I started popping when I was 20,
Yeah.
Like, in high school, I was around dance, and, like, I would see it, and I was at house parties all the time, and I would go to, like, the high school, and I'd watch people dance, But, like, I was insecure, Like, I couldn't move. Like, I had to teach myself to, like get in there, Like, and I wasn't... It was when I was 20 years old, I went to Homeland, Somebody randomly took me there, Sprite. It was like, that opened me up to that world, But, like, I started dance when I was 20 years old. And, like, I'm not, like, I never took battles that way, So, in an essence, there are an older group of people now, especially, I think, I see a lot of college-age people, doing this dance, almost as a supplement, like this artistic expression amidst the grind of education and things like that.
Yeah, totally.
But, like, kids are doing it for fun, and they're the ones creating all this shit, So it's like, so I completely, like, 9 years old.
I mean, and it tells you a lot of things, like, it tells you that their memories might not be so clear. I don't remember shit before I was like 16 or so. I don't know. I can't even imagine remembering back then.
But, like, even try and categorize the years,
right.
Like,
Yes.
Like, what year was it when I was 9 years old?
Yeah, right.
I don't know.
Now some guys do have a good memory though.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
And we just saw Norma Miller the other day. Yeah. 97 years old.
And she's dropping knowledge.
Crazy memory, right?
Yeah.
So it's like some people do, and usually you can tell. Usually you can tell those people.
Yeah.
Because they're pretty specific about things and whatnot. But I'll tell you this. Here's one tip that I've learned, and I want to big up Slovant for helping me out too, because we'll talk to these guys and share some stuff we hear and whatnot. It's good to ask, what grade they were in, if because you're trying to find this year, right? Usually it's school, right? School's a big thing. So it's like, what grade were you in? And did you get held back a year, right? Because they might say they're in 8th grade, but then they're like 1 year older than that because whatever, right? Of course, then when they're born, right? So then you start doing the math. Yeah. And then it's like, what song, right? That helps too.
A song.
Because even those other two, like, if they do remember the song, and there are guys that are like, oh yeah, man, he came out to Fire Ohio Players or something, and then you look at when that was released, and at least you have the earliest that could have been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, this was in 76, and you're like, this song didn't come out till 78, bro. Like, I don't say it like that.
That's interesting though. Yeah, like for sure, that's a way smarter way to kind of like go about the questions, because if you ask me like 9 years old, or like what grade were you in? What grade were you in is a better question. Like, when I categorize memories, I don't categorize it by like birthdays. I categorized it by school year.
Yeah. Or there's a lot more to remember in that year.
Yeah, like 4th grade. I remember my 4th grade teacher. I remember a 3rd grade teacher. 2nd grade. I remember all those, you know. And then, like, when songs came out, I could even think about, like, like when I first got introduced to, like, hip-hop and, like, the Beastie Boys, like, my mom not stole it, but she took away that album, you know, like, my babysitter was listening to it, and she was gonna ask my parents if she could give it to me. And, like, I remember these things, like, early on in my life where, like, now looking back, where I was like, oh, hip-hop was, like, calling to me at an early age, but I grew up in a conservative home, so it was never available. Like, even I remember I would hang out with my homie in, like, 4th and 5th grade, and he would play, like, Marshall Mathers, like the Marshall Mathers EP, and I was like, what is this? Like, the profanity alone was like, I was like, what the heck? Like, I had maybe heard the F word a few times before that, you know, like, and then I'm hearing this and I'm like, whoa, like, this is on some other stuff, you know? And then I just remember, like, having these songs stuck in my head, like, and I'm, like, cursing in my head, and I just felt so guilty about it. I'm all like this young Christian kid. Oh man, it was funny. But that's a cool that's a cool way of categorizing history. It makes more sense. But that's another way of cross-referencing, right?
Yeah.
Is like first you ask them, oh, how old were you, or maybe what grade? Okay, what song?
Yeah. And you wanna be, you know, respectful, because, like, some guys do when they're. You gotta know who you're talking to too.
Yeah.
It's tough. You know, like, you have a lot of different personalities out there.
Yeah.
So it's like,
you don't want to put them on trial.
This dance game. Yeah. You don't want to be like, well, no, I think you're wrong. Because, like,
Yeah.
they might not like that.
Yeah.
So, but if you kind of, like, help them out, like, so maybe it's like, so that song, like, do you think maybe it was like 75, maybe, like so, you know, you're really nice about it.
Yeah.
But, like, most guys, like, don't care, but, like, you know.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because, like, I'm just giving tips. These are my tips, because what I really want to do too is I want to encourage people to talk to these guys straight up.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be. I think my perspective is good, and younger people's perspective is good, because I wouldn't have, like, a bias so much. I would be like, I wasn't there, so for me it's all, like, objective. Like, I look at a lot of facts. I talk to a lot of different people. So, like, talking to me is definitely a good perspective to have.
Yeah.
But I also say, like, go talk to Chuck or Dan or whoever.
Yeah.
And just listen to what they say. And it'll tell you a lot of things too.
Yeah.
About how they are and how truthful it sounds.
Yeah.
Too. Because, like, me saying it, like, I don't know. Everybody's like, well, there's also a possibility that I don't know. But, like, when you hear him too, that helps build the case. Like, this guy sounds legit. You know, he doesn't sound like he's lying at all.
Yeah. You can make the call for yourself.
Right.
And I feel like, you know, it's important. It's really important that we get through this sort of history stuff, you know, for the future of this dance. And, you know, and right now, you know, in the past couple years, it's been heated to the point where, you know, the younger generation is kind of, like, given up on trying to figure it out, you know, and they're not caring, which is, it's okay, but I feel like when, it's completely understandable, and I feel I've been a part of that too, you know, at some points, but I still dig, but I'm like really passive about it, you know. As far as, like, I wasn't there, right, you know, and I'm always have an open ear, and I'm just an observer, you know, and I'm just making sense of things, and and to me, at this point, like, who created it doesn't really affect how I dance, you know, but I do still feel the judgment, like, when you're entering competitions and you're dancing in front of certain people, and you gotta cater your dance to people. I want that to go away, and I think that's gonna take, like, fighting through this history aspect, to kind of bang it out, to set it in stone per se, at least certain elements in the timeline and just like affirm it, like, okay. And then, you know, in the history books it could say, oh, in this area it was kind of blurry, you know, because there's no real way to say like who created what. This is dance, intellectual property, freestyle, people are ciphering, you know, stuff gets exchanged, you know, and put the claiming aside, but like getting the certain foundations right is
and I think, but I feel like my bigger goal there is like, yeah, I want to get this foundation solidified, but I also want to get the like the foundational philosophy, because I really like this style for that reason. When you talk to the old school boogaloo guys, they will be like some of them specific about like what they feel you would maybe need to do or this and that, but the majority of them will say, just do it the way you feel, and like, because that was their philosophy at the time, right?
Yeah.
It was like, we're making this up. They wanted to be different every day.
Yeah.
They wanted to come back. That's how you like won battles a lot, and that's how you like became somewhat famous, right? Yeah, because you're like, oh snap! Well, I'm gonna come out and like look like a dog and like piss on this dude, right? You know, something like that.
Yeah.
And like, so that became like incorporated, or you know, that's how some of the stuff even got in there in the first place. Like, I want to look like a creature, so now I'm animating like claymation, or now I want to look like a puppet. And then some people like take that and run with it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm gonna do puppet all the time.
You know, it's kind of like, for me, all this stems from the business model of competition, right?
Yes.
So, for example, what you're talking about is like, it was competitive back in the day, and there were battles, but the battles were based off of like innovation. Like, those were the people, and it was, innovation was welcomed. You know, and it was evolving super fast. You know, these guys got good super quick. Like, you see old footage and you're like, this dance hasn't been around that long. And these guys are killing it. Like, I look at Poppin' Taco and I'm like, geez, man, how long you been popping? And he's still better than majority of people today, if not all, you know? Like, he just has a certain style that people gravitate towards. But, like, to me, it's this competition business model that's, like, kind of killing the creativity. So you have this authority that's judging you.
Yes.
And before it was more of a jam atmosphere, you know, where people were just gathering and, you know, like it was something new all the time. So like, we're drifting towards this, like, if we keep up with this competition business model, I feel like it's going to drift to these, like, you know, these traditional dances with like ballroom competitions where it's like super rigid and like you have to be so on point in technique, and like, it to me, that's not the essence of this street dance that we're the origins. Like, that's not true to the origins. And when people ask me like what is right, I go, look, this is the mentality of the OGs. There was no authority before them telling them how to do this. They were creating it. So when you ask me if that's right, I'm going to tell you, like, does it feel right?
Yeah. Right.
Because that's the authority that you should be listening to, I feel.
Yeah, and I totally agree. Like, the competition thing, judging, is what is putting the rules, right? And it's like, it's a natural thing. Because you kind of, if you're gonna have competitions, obviously, you need criteria, something, so it like makes it easier if you have like specifically this and that.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's just a balancing act of like preserving that creativity part, but keeping the tradition and foundations. You know, so it's a difficult thing to do, and I think everything's needed, you know, at some point. But often when people tell me, like, when I ask what's right, the same question, I say, well, are you trying to win competitions?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna have to listen to what those guys are saying, and do basically what they want. Yeah. If that's what you want. Yeah. But if you're just trying to like do this dance and whatever, do whatever the fuck you want.
Do it. And so, like, back to this kind of like story that you were talking about. We started we started with like your transition and finding out all this your past and when you started and that sort of stuff, and then you recently quit your job, right?
Yeah.
You quit your job, and now you're like almost doing this stuff full time. You're exploring your artistic qualities, right? So you've kind of felt this void. You quit your job, and now what's next? Like, what are you doing now? Like, what is this all coming to? You know.
Well, I'm still finding that out, you know.
Yeah.
But for me, like I'm gonna get back into some work because I want to make sure I get some income rolling in. Of course, you need money to survive, right? So,
Yeah.
So that may or may not be something that I love, like super passionate about. But I think I'm gonna just keep exploring, and like what I have done is gotten more, at least more solidifying like what I want to explore, and trying to actively like pursue those things and trying to find communities, more communities.
Yeah.
To find, you know, that will open up opportunities to like either jobs or just projects or learning new things, you know. So that's kind of where I'm at, is living in a new place, trying to find new communities, balancing that with some income and other projects I always do, like dance related stuff and whatnot too.
Yeah. So, and has this path been like scary for you at all?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get overwhelmed just thinking of like the possibilities.
Yeah. Like
You
the
know,
possibilities of like what?
what I could do and what like
The options.
the options, and then what they like. And then you're like the fear of like, well, will they work? Will they?
Yeah.
Will I be successful in them? Either just like a skill or just like the financial thing is a big one. You know, sure, I would I want to like learn how to play the piano and like jam in a band, but I don't think I'm gonna be really doing that for like a moneymaker thing.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, well, maybe I'll go to get a job and then I'm gonna take some classes while I'm working.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get all that sorted. You know, like making sure I'm pursuing some passions, but also like ensuring that I
can get by
have financial means.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not easy for anybody really.
Yeah, it's a tough path for sure. I mean, I've been on that wavelength for a while. You know, that frequency and it's tough, and I think it's important for artists to talk about it too, because you know I think in a lot of ways we're in the same boat, and to understand that it is not an easy road. But also, I think, you know, the fact that it's not easy doesn't mean it's not possible, and I also do think like soul searching is super important. You know, for this, especially this generation, and before you get sucked into that, the bills, and you know, like it's, for me, it's, I want to get the information out there so people can like stop it before it starts. In a way, like I became aware of it kind of early, so I flowed out of college into this kind of lifestyle, and so I didn't have much to begin with. And I just started getting rid of more and more stuff. So I got this backpack, and I got this speaker, and I got this camera, and I just kind of go with it. But I didn't get stuck behind car payments. I didn't get stuck behind,
debt.
Rent. Or debt in college. You know, luckily I got through that, financial aid and stuff. And you know, it's yeah, man. This kind of like path that we get sucked into, as far as like right out of high school, going to college, and not everybody has the money to go to college, right? Parents aren't paying for it, government's not helping, whatever. You pull out a loan, you go into debt. You know, as soon as you get debt, you got payments, and you got payments, you ain't leaving, you ain't going nowhere. Like you're on a little bit of like a parole, or like a, you know, like so it's kind of like staying out of the system's way, and just kind of avoiding getting sucked in to that. So Yeah, man. I mean, it's crazy to hear it from another perspective in which I never had, because you had this job, and you
Yeah.
rarely hear people leaving that,
Uh-huh.
and you kind of like became aware of it,
Yeah.
and then you went out of it, and but the cool thing is that you could always find something back in that realm. You got a cushion,
Right.
you got skills.
Right. And I,
Yeah.
and that's it. But that also scares me too, like, because I feel like I fear losing them the more I don't use them, and all that stuff. Being out of work doesn't always look good on the resume and all these things.
Yeah.
But I think the important thing, like we were talking about this, is you can always make some money. Like you can find ways to make some money, as long as you don't have all that like debt and responsibilities and stuff. Of course,
Yeah.
if you got like a bunch of kids.
Yeah.
You
Kids
have
are.
to- yeah, man,
Yeah.
that's a big one.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but not having that fear of like, I think that's why people don't leave. They fear like,
It's
oh,
the
what
fear.
happens if I lose it all? But like, it's you can get. I mean, like you said, it's not too hard to get back in and making some money.
Yeah.
You might not be like loving the job or whatever, but if you have the drive to get the money and to also like continue like pursuing and trying to build like you can willing to learn,
Mm-hmm.
willing to work hard to move up or whatever it is you might
Yeah.
need to do.
Yeah.
Like those things can happen. You just
Yeah.
but you need this time too to figure things out for sure. You don't just want to get stuck in
Yeah. Yeah,
the work.
I think there's just this kind of like momentum that is built throughout your life in which society tells you have to do certain things.
Yeah.
And it builds this momentum and it builds this pressure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's rare you like I feel like I've avoided that in some ways, and gotten out of the way of that rolling ball of like
Yeah.
college, job, career, kids, car, house,
Yeah.
mortgage,
That's the rat path right there. That's your steps in life.
Yeah, it's your steps. And for me, it was like, hold up, let me take a step back. Let me pull out of this real quick and see what steps I even want to take in this life. And it's not based off anybody else, but the decision I choose. I'm in control of my destiny, and that's what I want to give people too. And to see that you took control of it, basically. Which is rare, man. So
Or at least tried to.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, you're still working it out, and we all are, man. And
Yeah.
it's not to say that like there's no passion in this rolling ball that society gives you.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
that can be beautiful too. But to me, it's just about being conscious.
Right.
Being conscious of these paths we get
Yeah.
pushed down.
Exactly.
Yeah, and if you're cool with that, that's cool. Like.
Yeah, so people are so like real happy. I got a bunch of friends that basically are more or less in that, but they're cool. Like
Yeah.
and I'm fine with like
The struggle is relative, man. The happiness is relative too. You're gonna have ups and downs, whatever path you choose.
Yeah.
So, yeah, man.
But you don't have to do that. That's the point there.
Yep.
For sure.
Freedom, man. All right, man. Well, it was good talking to you, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, Playboy Stix in the building.
Thanks for doing this.
Yeah.
Giving people insights.
Yeah, man. This isn't the last time you'll be hearing from Playboy Stix. Playboys Inc. All right. Check y'all later. Peace.
Later.
Playboy Stix is at the forefront of that, and let's find out what he's got to say. All right, y'all. The Grassfed robot, Playboy Stix.